Today I'll be reviewing a famous unproduced screenplay, finding out what we missed out on, and asking the question whether this script should have been a movie. Today's script is Nottingham, written by Ethan Rife and Cyrus Voris, dated 2006. This script stars the Sheriff of Nottingham, who is brought in to solve a series of murder mysteries, with the main suspect being Robin Hood himself. Some backstory. This is one of the most famous unproduced screenplays, although technically it was produced. The script was bought by Ridley Scott's production company. Ridley was not happy with the script, and during the production, the script was continually rewritten until the final version had little to do with the original screenplay. And the entire concept was rewritten in favor of a more typical Robin Hood concept. This was released in 2010 as the movie Robin Hood, starring Russell Crowe. So, were the producers right, or was the original screenplay ruined by executive meddling? Let's find out. So the script begins in around 12th century Cyprus. An English castle is under siege. A group of English soldiers are battling a group of Greek soldiers. We travel down into this underground tunnel where these English soldiers are hiding. We're introduced to a character named Sir Robert Tornham, who has this bucket of water that he's carrying. He sets it down and he uses the water in the bucket to detect Greek soldiers digging towards them in the tunnel. Soldiers burst through the tunnel, but the English are ready for them, and they fight back and force them back onto the surface. And then eventually the English win the battle. And the whole thing was just a fun opening. I thought it was a really good way of very quickly establishing the Tornham as being this resourceful, intelligent character. The way the action is written is just really well done. There's a bit where the fire's going on, and we follow this catapult as it launches this boulder. We follow it as it kind of goes up and up and up, and then it falls and crashes into the ground, revealing this tunnel with the English soldiers in it, and I just thought it was really well done. I just thought it was like a really cool way of revealing that. And from there we go to Sherwood Forest. There's this nobleman and woman, and they are getting drunk. It's nighttime, and they're getting frisky with each other when this arrow just pierces both of them and just kills them immediately. So later we're back at this English castle where we meet Squire Thomas, and he tells Tornham that he is no longer the Sheriff of Cyprus. He's being transferred to a new post, the Sheriff of Nottingham.
He said it! He said it!
And he's been brought in to get to the bottom of a series of murders, with the main suspect being this former nobleman turned fugitive known as Robin Hood. So the sheriff shows up and immediately gets on the case. He's checking out the dead bodies. He's checking out the murder scene. The character is a medieval Sherlock Holmes, and he's looking at this whole thing from perspectives that nobody else is. There's a lot of Sherlock Holmes type scenes going on here. I just thought this stuff was really well done. So eventually the sheriff gets captured by Robin Hood's men. The sheriff is alone in the woods when he gets ambushed, and we get this fun little action scene where he fights off the merry men. A scene involving this deadly pit that he almost falls into. Then he gets to his horse, and then he starts riding out of there when he gets knocked off his horse by this huge log that swings down from the treetops, slams into him and takes him right off his horse. So he's on the ground looking up, and he's just almost unconscious. And then he sees this handsome face, and then the person says, "Welcome to Sherwood." Sheriff mutters something like "Locksley," just as the scene ends. I love that. It's a great way of setting up a first meeting between these two. And I just really love that. So the sheriff is taken to Robin Hood's hideout, and we get this back and forth between these two. So the sheriff is questioning him, and Robin Hood's defending his actions. He's saying that he's not behind the murders. I like the idea of the scene. Having a scene where the good guys captured and interrogated by the bad guys, because it's usually the other way around. So that was, I thought it was really well done. That's right. That was like this scene where we get like the sheriff and the Robin Hood, face to face. Eventually the merry men let the sheriff go, and then he goes back to Nottingham, and then we move into the second half of the script. The murders continue. We get more investigation and detective work. Prince John makes an announcement. He said King Richard is dead, and that makes him the new leader. And eventually he captures Robin Hood. And so Robin Hood's in his prison cell when the sheriff walks in and says he's convinced Prince John to give Robin Hood a trial by combat, which then leads us into the ending. There's like a huge battle scene and everything just goes nuts. So the positives are the Sheriff of Nottingham character, who is just very, very well written, just a great character. From the opening scenes where he's using his wits to defeat the enemy, through the rest of the script with all the investigative scenes and all the detective work, it's just really well done. And the writers do a great job of keeping him from being a total dickhead. Because it's easy for a character like this to kind of be pushed in that direction, but it doesn't really happen. There's a scene where Prince John increases the taxes, and this man is being arrested for not paying the new taxes. The sheriff shows up, and he says he's going to take care of the problem. But the thing is, he's paid the money out of his own pocket to stop the man from being arrested. And I just thought that was like a really good way of showing that he's not all bad. Just some good character work, you know.
Interior burner's hut day. A dirt floor, hardly any furniture to speak of. Taunham follows the burner inside, looks around, then looks back to the burner. Please, Sheriff, have mercy. My wife and I go hungry some days. Don't make our babies go hungry too. I love King Richard, but enough. Please, sir, I said enough. Taunham turns away from the pathetic man, rubs his eyes, takes a deep breath. God damn it, these things I'm forced to do. I have no choice. It's the law. Do you understand that? I have no choice. Taunham reaches into his pocket, slips out 2 small gold coins and forces them into the burner's hand. The burner looks up at him in shock and confusion. The bailiffs will be back in a month. Make sure you put something aside for them. And don't tell anyone about this, or I'll burn your tongue out myself. The burner nods, still stunned.
The other thing was the choices the writers are making are really good choices. For example, when the sheriff first walks into the Robin Hood cell, he says there's going to be a trial for Robin Hood. Robin Hood going on trial. I wasn't exactly enthusiastic about it, but then he says trial by combat. And then I just went, oh, okay. No, yeah, that's much better. So, yeah, no, these writers know what they're doing. Yeah, no, someone's going to die. That's way more interesting. Thank you. Much better ending. So my issues are the actual mystery isn't that much of a mystery. How I put this, there weren't any big twists, and the reveal ended up being pretty straightforward. This script gets sold as a Robin Hood story, in which Robin Hood is the villain. I was expecting something that wasn't this. I was expecting a typical Robin Hood story, but with more time spent with the sheriff. So let's say a big action scene happens. And Robin Hood steals people's stuff. We cut to the sheriff and the nobleman, and everyone's upset, and the prince is angry with the sheriff, and the sheriff's been humiliated. And we're feeling sorry for the sheriff. Yeah, and then we'd have all these noblemen weeping. They've lost their life savings. That kind of thing. So it's like, wow. We're thinking, wow, this Robin Hood guy's kind of terrible. He's a menace. So we're on their side. We're the audience going, wow, that Robin Hood guy's kind of a dick. Something like that. So that's what I thought this story was going to be, right? But that's not what this story is, right? This is a detective story. I mean, Robin Hood doesn't do anything villainous in this script. There's a scene early on where the sheriff's belongings get stolen. And that could have been the scene that sets up Robin Hood as this big, scary villain. But it doesn't. It's played for laughs, and nobody gets hurt. And that just leads to my next point, which is that Robin Hood doesn't do anything Robin Hood-like in this script. He doesn't rob from the rich, and he doesn't give to the poor. He doesn't do much of anything. He gets this troll by combat at the end, but apart from that, he's just a non-entity. So he's Robin Hood in name only, which then leads into my other final point, which is that the Robin Hood elements feel unnecessary. This script could have very easily just not been a Robin Hood story. And maybe the Robin Hood elements attracted the wrong kind of attention to the script. What the writers could have done is taken the Robin Hood elements out of the script and maybe tried to pitch it as a medieval film noir. A medieval, detective story. I feel like that would have been like a better idea. So the final question is this script a movie? It's with or without the Robin Hood elements. You have a great realistic medieval detective story with a great vibe, great main character, and one hell of an ending. So, yes. That was Nottingham by Ethan Rife and Cyrus Voris. And I'll see you next time.